And we're back.
Hey, sorry about the delay. We had a couple little mic issues, but we're good to go now. And welcome to our Legends of Tomorrow, our first ever Legends of Tomorrow recap. This episode was bonkers. We got new characters, we got Arrow crossover, we got Einstein, atomic bombs, we got France in the 1600s, we got dinosaurs, we got the Salem witch trials, we got Reverse Flash, we got JSA. This was badass. This was such a good episode of this show. I haven't liked this show
It was a lot of fun, yeah.
so much since it started. This was like everything I want from a comic book television show, quite honestly. You know, it has its, obviously all shows have their issues, but this was just so much fun. I'm your host, John Reed. Joining me as per usual on these recaps is Dennis Pathalkis. Hi, Dennis.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
We've got our awesome new little lower thirds. You can follow me at John Reed 16 on Twitter, and you can follow Dennis at DeForest. So obviously, I'm high on this episode. Dennis, how'd you like
I
it?
loved it. I loved it a lot. I mean, having the whole, Arrow discovering, the arsonist, if you will, in stasis aboard a ship that's crashed in 1942 in New York. It was actually pretty cool. Then having to go through all the flashback of what happened as your episode.
And Arrow, he couldn't be bothered. Like the whole time he's just like, I don't have time for this. Like, you guys figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm out, guys. I got my own show I got to worry about. It was kind of awesome.
I did kind of find it funny that they were doing it all in flashback, kind of like an Arrow episode.
Yeah, totally. They know how to use their Arrow crossovers. So we've got a new character right off the bat. We see Dr. Haywood breaking into Arrow's mayoral office. Who's this guy, Dennis?
Well, since we at the very end of this episode, we got introduced to the JSA, Justice Society of America, and they are actually an Earth 2 in the comics, Justice League, if you will.
Yeah, they're like the JLA of Earth 2.
Yeah. And Dr. Haywood is actually the grandson of one of the members.
Oh, okay.
So that's where we got that from.
What role does he usually play in the comics? Is he usually like in a liaison? Is he like a time traveler? Like, what's his deal? I mean,
No,
obviously
he's a hero himself because his grandfather was a hero, and so like him, he was a hero as well. And he is I'm kind of stumbling here because I can't remember offhand exactly what it was. I actually looked it up. He is Commander Steel.
Oh yeah, Commander Steel. I was looking at that too. Citizen Steel. So it looks as if he's replacing Rip Hunter in this show. I don't know if that's correct or not, but it seems from this episode as if that's the case. And
as much as historian.
Right, he's a historian, but it looks like Rip isn't going to be around, at least for the foreseeable future or past or whatever you want to call it on the show.
Well, I think what they're going to do is they're going to have to find Rip because Rip is lost in time someplace.
Yeah, but he also kind of had his sign off that was like, "You guys go for it." You know, like to me, it almost feels like, and I may be wrong, but it feels as if Rip is taking a step back, and it's more about Haywood and his historical, like fixing, almost like the show that just came out this year, Timeline, I think it's called, or Timeless. It's like Timeless where they're like correcting little things in history, and I think that's what we thought the show was going to be at the beginning. And we got Rip Hunter was a companion on Doctor Who, so he lent some credibility to this like Doctor Who type superhero show, but the character never really clicked for me as much as already Dr. Haywood seems to be clicking with this group of people. Yeah, so it's interesting that they're kind of taking a step back from the Hawk people and Captain Cold and Rip, and they're going more toward, you know, the Atom and Sarah and Firestorm and now Dr. Haywood, which I like a lot.
Yeah, quite honestly, the whole Hawkman, Hawkgirl, you know, that whole thing. At first, I thought it was going to be cool because the villain, you know, I really liked the villain. If they had actually used Vandal Savage. If they had used his original origin, which he was a caveman who finds a meteorite and he's just immortal, and gets smarter and smarter as he goes through the years. That would have been a lot cooler than having him be tied into the Hawk people's origins, which just, ugh, God,
It
that thing
was
just went on forever. It was insufferable.
Yeah, I mean that's where they crafted all of last season was around that dynamic, and it was the least interesting aspect of the show last season in a mess of uninteresting things. And quite honestly, this was the show I was looking forward to the least coming into this season. I even kind of was more looking forward to Supergirl, but after this premiere, I'm like totally on board. So we've got Dr. Haywood. We also have a mention of Rex. Anyway, Our Man, right?
Our Man. And Our
So
Man
Our
again,
Man,
we saw him. He was at the very end. We saw him. He's part of the Justice Society. His power is he has a pill that he takes that gives him superpowers for exactly 1 hour.
so is it always the same superpower, or is
Yeah,
it different stuff every time he takes pills?
yeah, it's like super speed, super strength, a little bit of invulnerability, all that kind of stuff.
So he's basically Superman for an hour.
Not really Superman. He can't fly, but he's stronger than the average person, of course.
So when we start the flashbacks, this episode, we go back to France in the 1600s, and the King of France is getting married, and there are these time bandits, and we see our crew with Rip at the helm of the crew, fending off the time bandits from ruining things essentially. And this sequence was so much fun. It reminded me of like the Three Musketeers. Like
Well, yeah,
it just had
it was actually Count Richelieu is what they were talking about. Richelieu was the one who actually tried to assassinate the king, and that's what the whole plot of the Three Musketeers was about.
right.
So it was a very big nod to Dumas.
Totally, and you had the like swashbuckler. The music I thought was fantastic during that scene. You had
Yeah,
the trust fall between the members of Firestorm, where he jumps off the balcony and they merge right away. And
yeah,
Rip's like, "Oh Jesus, we're not supposed to be using our powers," and everyone's just going crazy. It was so
yeah.
so much fun. I mean, it just reminded me of I think what we like about comic books. It had that what we were just talking about Arrow, how it needs more
Of
camp.
this,
It
yes,
needs
it
more
needs
of
more of
this.
this.
Correct. And we even had Arrow in this episode, and it shows kind of how Oliver can be in an episode like this, which was great.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, if you make him a little more lighthearted, it could actually be a lot better. As we saw, I actually liked him in this episode. Yeah, he wasn't Arrow in this one, but still, he wasn't sourpuss that he normally
Right.
is.
He wasn't all broody and dark and
Yeah,
um so the next part of this is Our Man had told the team that they need to not go to New York in 1942 because that's where they all die. And so all of a sudden the ship's going through the time stream after France 1600s, and they get a, what do they call it, a time wave or
Timequake,
something, a time
Timequake.
quake, which emanated from New York in 1942. And the team is worried about like, oh, did the Nazis, like, are the Nazis going to win the war? Is New York completely gone? Like all this speculation. And at the same time, they find out that Einstein, the bomb hadn't happened, or the bomb hadn't happened for, or
Well, basically, the bomb was invented in 1945. I mean,
right. But in this, it was
dropped
1947.
1942.
Right.
World War II in this timeline didn't end until 1947.
Until 1947. And they
So
hypothesized
1945
that Einstein was kidnapped and used for
to build the bomb.
Germany, for the Nazis to build the bomb. So they want to go back and kidnap Einstein before the Nazis can get to him. First of all, kind of jumping to conclusions here. I mean, yes, they have a couple pieces to the puzzle, but they're like, oh, it's Einstein. Let's go get Einstein. Like, it was almost like they got wrapped up in this like Einstein mystery and jump to conclusions a little bit, because we find out that even though they kidnap Einstein, they go back and meet him and kidnap him, that it doesn't really fix the problem, right?
Exactly. It turns out his wife, or his ex-wife now, was a collaborator.
Minerva.
And was the one that actually helped him with the theory of relativity and a few other things as well. And so she's actually just as smart as he is. She's also a nuclear physicist as well. and she needs to be protected from the Nazis because she's the one that ends up being, building the bomb.
Exactly. And at the same time, Sarah is still pissed off over Damien Dark killing her sister. So she's like, "Oh, where's Damien Dark in 1942?" And she goes off to try to hunt him down. And Ray, the Atom, follows her. So, kind of a fun premise. The guy who played Einstein was hilarious, and his interactions with Dr. Stein were also really funny. What did you think of all this madness going on?
Actually, the part where he finally realizes they're time travelers, when he has that ding moment, was actually pretty good. He did a great job of acting on that part where, he looks around and goes, oh, and he just realizes that they're time travelers.
Mm-hmm.
So that was good.
And at the same time, he's like, Mick is there, and he's like totally dissing Dr. Stein by like complimenting Mick as the smarter of the two. And oh man, like
Mick was the one who got it, who said, oh, right. Yeah, your wife is the one who also knows this stuff as well, your ex-wife.
Yeah, there's some girl
like,
out
why
there?
am I talking? Yeah.
Yeah, I just loved the episode. Kind of wanders a little bit for me after this point, until the very, very end. But up until this point, it's just bam, bam, bam. Like this episode moves so fast. I mean, I feel like any other TV show would drag this out over so much time, and this it hits you with it in like the first 20 minutes or whatever.
Sorry, I'm getting some barking, unfortunately.
No worries. Pepper's just agreeing with me. This was awesome.
Yeah, it's somebody at the door. That's all it is. Yeah, the fight scenes always for Legends of Tomorrow, when they have the big ensemble fight scene, are always a mess. And that's par for the course here. I mean, they have the big ensemble fight scene. We saw the one at the beginning of the episode, which was actually really good, but the one at the end of the episode, which was really messy. So it's just different sides of the same coin, if you will.
Yes. So let's see what goes on next. So yeah, there's like they figure stuff out, and then I mean, I think what we really want to be talking about here is sorry, there's a little bit of distortion. Can you fiddle with your?
How's that?
Better. I think what's really interesting about this episode is what happens kind of more toward the end. You've got the Wave Rider on target to intercept the nuclear blast so that they can save the city. And you have Rip, who basically sends the rest of the members of the team, disperses them throughout history. So it's up to Dr. Haywood and Mick at this point to hunt them down and find them. And you've got Ray, who's in South Dakota getting chased by dinosaurs. This actually looked pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, that T-Rex model, I've seen it before. It's been around the industry quite a bit, so I've seen it. Like I said, it's a good model.
But yeah, no, I thought that it was really funny, and he's like, who's this guy? Dr. Haywood's there. So he gets Ray, and then they head to England in 821, where both members of Firestorm are, and the little king is acting like Joffrey and is wants to execute them, and they're wizards, right? Because they have like crazy gadgets and stuff. And he's like looking at his phone, like his secret mirror into the future or whatever. And they come in right before the king's going to have them executed, and Mick and Ray and Dr. Haywood save Firestorm from execution. I thought that scene was really hilarious.
Yeah, that was pretty good, especially
I loved it.
The doctor and basically Ronnie didn't need saving. They could have just turned into Firestorm pretty easily and saved themselves, but I thought it was funny.
Totally. And then, so then we go to Sarah, who's being burned at the stake during the Salem witch trials.
She's gonna be hung.
Hung during the Salem witch trials, and
Dr.
Who was it? Dr. Haywood was like, "Is she always this violent?" I just love that line.
I like the what it was. The reason why she was being hung as a witch was because she was corrupting young women.
Oh yes, she's going around sleeping with everybody.
Yeah, and the way she kind of winks at the one girl and kind of points to her. I thought that was pretty funny. They did a nice little.
Yeah, me. And then we have we have the team back together, and they get Rip's final message aboard the Wave Rider. So this is where I was a little confused, and it sounds like you and I both have a different take on this, which is interesting. I got this as like Rip is off the show for a while, if not forever, and he's handing over the keys to both, because they were pumping up the fact that he's not going to be around all the time, and he was having Jackson figure out all the ship's mechanical stuff, and we've got Dr. Haywood coming in as this historian to kind of be the Rip part of the team to guide them through history. So to me it seemed like both that and his final message was it's over.
No, it's more he also scattered himself into the timeline or sent himself someplace and didn't, of course, put it into Gideon's computer or Gideon's memory. And I think that's what we have Hayward for. Is Hayward's supposed to guide them, but at the same time, also that's the big mystery of the season: is where is Rip?
Okay. So yeah, that's interesting to me. I wasn't sure where they were going with that, but I do like the show better without Rip and with Dr. Haywood, quite honestly.
I kind of like Rip. I mean, Rip had the whole exasperation thing. Whenever he tells them to do something, they of course do the exact opposite of whatever he tells them to do. At least they get the job done. I mean, like the whole thing in France, like we saw in the beginning. I deliver one not to use powers, and Ray is just like blasting. And I said, "Got the last one,"
Yeah.
Using the suit to blast him off the tower.
Yeah, it is funny that it's like the team rules the roost, not Rip. But I really did. Okay, so up until this point, it's been like a really fun episode, and I feel like right now is where everything kind of switches. So let's get into the last two big reveals of the show and what they might mean going forward. So we've got Damien Dark, who's been they fix the time stream by going back and making sure that the Einsteins are working with the Allies. So Dark is kind of thwarted, it seems, and he's kind of pissed off, but he alludes to the fact that he's working with a partner. And then you see like the Flash red like zoomy lines, and Reverse Flash is standing there. So you've got this duo of Dark, who was the big bad on Arrow for such a long time, and you've got Reverse Flash, who was the big bad on Flash for a really long time, working together as the big bad guys in this Legends of Tomorrow.
I already know who the big bads are in this one.
Okay, so spoiler alert. So where's this going?
Legion of Doom.
Oh, so who's going to make up the Legion of Doom?
So we have Damien Dark. We have Zoom, Professor Zoom. We have Captain Cold.
Oh.
Yeah, Captain Cold is going to be coming back. And I forget, there's one other person who's coming back, and I'm blanking on it at the moment.
So yes. Why would Captain Cold work against the team?
They pick him up at a point in time before he joined the team.
Interesting. That's going to be crazy. I don't know if I like Captain Cold as a bad guy. I liked where they were going. Like, they'll probably reform him along the way, right?
I don't know. I like him as a bad guy, to tell you the truth. I mean...
Why?
He was just kind of really snotty as a bad guy. And I kind of liked it, you know? He was snotty as a good guy, too, but much more so as a bad guy.
Yeah. I don't know, man. He's just such a lovable rogue, if you will. And I just... that's interesting. I don't know how I feel about him working with Damien Dark, That's weird.
Well, I mean, they're going to come to heads at some point in time, of course, because you have all these people that think that they're in charge.
Right, big egos.
Yeah.
So we've got the first part of the Legion of Doom, which at this point is just a pair in Damien Dark and Zoom.
Merlin is the other one. Excuse me, I just remembered now.
Oh, Malcolm?
Yeah, Malcolm is back. I just remembered.
Wow, that's quite a group. Lots of Arrow people, more Arrow people than Flash people, huh?
Yeah.
They should have Grodd on that team too.
Two Arrow, two Flash.
Oh yeah. God, I keep forgetting that Snart is not Arrow, which is so crazy. Because anyway, so then the last reveal we get is our heroes seem to have saved the day. They're walking away, and you get the big JSA reveal. So who does it seem like are the members of the JSA that they're going with?
So we have Dr. Midnight. We have Vixen. Hourman. Stargirl, which was the one who flew down at the end there. And I believe we have Commander Steel there.
Oh, okay. So you've got Haywood's grandfather or grandson?
Grandfather.
So that's one connection we have there. Are there any connections between this JSA and the rest of our team? Are there any other connections?
I don't know where they're, how they're doing it, because in the comics they're Earth 2, so it's a different time, a different continuity,
right?
If you will. So I don't know what they're doing in the show, how they're going to do it.
Man, it just looks like from the previews, it just looks so cool. Like they did the JSA in Smallville, and Jeff Johns was the one that was kind of guiding that process. It was led by Dr. Fate, and it was interesting, right? Like it was the Justice Society. It was really interesting. But this looks, man, that last scene where they fly down, yeah, it just looked so cool. Like It's everything you want from a JSA on TV, right?
Yep. And also, you got to remember too, with them screwing around with the timeline, this also puts Flash and Arrow. Remember, we were talking about this in Arrow about the timeline. Now we see where all these little imperfections are happening, because we got a hint of it in Flash, and so I believe this is all going to tie into Flash, Arrow, and maybe even the Supergirl as well.
That'd be so crazy. Oh, I just love where all this is going. It's tough because there's not much more to talk about in this episode unless you have anything. But it was just such a fun ride, right? Like This episode was almost like a little mini movie, and I really enjoyed that about it.
Yeah, I know. I had a lot of fun with it. I mean, I wasn't disappointed. Except like the fight. Like I said, the fight scene was just a little bit messy. That second fight scene. But
so where does this go? Like, what's the JSA doing here? Any theories there?
I don't know. To tell you the truth, I mean, probably because they, I don't know. Maybe they know they're time travelers or something like that, or they've got some kind of information on them. We don't know. We'll see. What happens in the next episode.
Yep. Well, I'm excited. As we said earlier, these recaps are going to be a little shorter now during the week because we're going to have a larger CW superhero roundup, including Gary, which I know you guys are all looking forward to. So we'll be doing those on the weekends. But unless there's anything else, I think we're done for tonight on this one.
Yeah, no, I think we're done on this one. Definitely, not a lot to talk about because there's a lot of things that are up in the air still. That's what happens when you have time travel.
Exactly. Lots of things up in the air. So you can follow either of us on Twitter. I'm at JohnReed16. Dennis is at DeForce. You can also follow at Nerdrotics and tweet us any questions for the CW Superhero Roundtable we're going to have. It's a feedback show this weekend, so we can answer any of your questions, anything you're wondering. You can throw those out there. You can also ask your questions on our Facebook page at Facebook.com/Nerdrotic Podcast. And yeah, until next week.
Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out, America.
Awesome. Bye.
See ya.